CBS News has confirmed that the United States is sending dozens of Patriot missiles to Ukraine for its war against Russian invaders. The missiles are being transferred from Israel.
Ukraine is desperate for U.S. military aid. Holly Williams was with Ukrainian special forces as they prepared to set off on a mission.
In eastern Ukraine, we met up with the Artan Special Operations Unit as they prepped for a raid.
Channel 2.
Their high-tech equipment appears to have come from the US or Europe. The group carries out daring acts of sabotage, often behind enemy lines. Their motto is, we know, we find, we destroy. On the campaign trail, President Trump claimed he could end the war in 24 hours. That hasn't happened, but it sparked fears here that he could cut off the supply of American weapons. The group's commander told us if that happens, they'll keep fighting, even if their weapons run out altogether. But not everyone here is so gung-ho. For nearly 3 years, Ukraine's people have stood up to Vladimir Putin's invading army. Now, just over half of Ukrainians want to negotiate a ceasefire, according to a recent poll. That's more than double the figure at the start of the war. But many here told us they have conditions. Yevhenia Puzakova lost her husband, Alexander, and her eldest son, Alexei, in the fight against Russia.
Do you support negotiations with Russia to try and agree on a ceasefire?
I support it, but simply freezing the front line will not do anything, because in a few years Russia will invade again.
Ukraine's government shares that fear. It says it will only agree to a ceasefire deal if its allies protect it from Russia, perhaps with European peacekeeping forces or NATO membership. We don't know for sure how many casualties Ukraine has suffered, but it's thought to be in the hundreds of thousands.
The soldier was hit by shelling. He has a shrapnel wound to his head. He is unconscious and on ventilation.
This ambulance is run by MOAS, an international aid group that operates a fleet of 50 vehicles along Ukraine's front line. Dr. Mihailo Ilik is a pediatric anesthesiologist who volunteered to race wounded soldiers to the hospital.
Ukrainians are suffering terribly to defend their country. Is it worth it?
Definitely, he told us. This is our land. We have to stand with it to the last.
Holly, you have been in Ukraine so many times over the years. How do you recognize the sense of fatigue since those early days when they were championed for their resilience?
Well, John, we were here at the start of the invasion and we witnessed ordinary Ukrainians signing up to fight and then heading off to the front line, sometimes with just a week's basic training. But now the demographics are against them. Russia has about 3 times the population of Ukraine, and the Ukrainians are thought to be running short of manpower.
Holly, with that in mind, with that backdrop in mind, what do everyday Ukrainians see as an acceptable deal to bring this war to an end?
Maurice, I think a deal that freezes the front line and then protects Ukraine against being invaded again by Russia would probably be accepted by most Ukrainians. But a deal that redraws the map, that rewards Vladimir Putin with parts of Ukraine and then doesn't protect this country, I think many Ukrainians would prefer just to keep fighting.
Putin and Trump have both said they want to meet to talk about Ukraine. Well, what does Putin want?
Well, withdrawing Russian troops from Ukraine could be seen as a personal humiliation for Vladimir Putin, who started this war in the first place. On the other hand, though, Russia is also thought to be taking hundreds of thousands of casualties. It is isolated from the West. So maybe a meeting with the US president would give Putin a face-saving way out of this conflict.
Holly Williams reporting for us from Ukraine. Thank you, Holly.